Thank you all for your investment in everyone's quest for change. For our first-time guests, you are in for a treat, and we know that you have pulled yourself away from the World Cup semifinals. So I will be sure to drop some soccer wordplay in here just for you. And for our European viewers, I'll be sure to drop some football wordplay in here just for you. Now, the members of Cohort 8 have just completed an academic program learning to build and leverage diverse teams through a productive innovation process. They scoped out problems of their choosing and experimented with real solutions with the goal of pursuing innovative solutions that our day-to-day organizational bureaucracy might not. They pass their solutions on to a sponsor, someone for whom solving this problem is in their best interest. Now, each sponsor will receive the ball and dribble forward to the next leg of the journey, employing the innovative solutions that were passed onto them. See how the soccer plays coming here? So that is the goal. Okay, either you get it or you get it. Say thank you, Ethan. So today our 6 Cohort 8 teams will showcase their final pitches. And we want these projects to make a lasting impression, but more importantly, these innovators within units across the DoD can impact the innovation culture and work on many more innovation projects in the future, singular future. Now today, we are honored today to have with us 3 esteemed guest referees who will evaluate today's presentations and ultimately select our award winners. Ms. Trish Martinelli, CEO and Executive Director at the Defense Entrepreneurs Forum. This is her first time judging with Project Mercury, and Trish spent 21 years in the Army before starting her career in management at BAE. Then she returned to DoD with service as a naval intel officer in 2016. Then she started her current stint with the Defense Entrepreneurs Forum in 2021. Her efforts as the executive director include rolling out their new web tool for collaboration, the Innovation in National Security Project. And of course, her smartest and most productive move was finally choosing to work with the best service team, the Air Force, through Project Mercury. So, Ms. Martinelli, we welcome you. Feel free to use your emotions. Thank you. I see Yvonne's clapping there. Perfect. Now, Dr. Marina Theodotou won the prestigious Green Award for Acquisitions Writing in 2021 in the Innovations category for her work Scaling Innovation at the Department of Defense, an Actionable Framework and Practical Steps for the Joint Force. Dr. Theodotou is also the author of The 5 Building Blocks of a Learning Ecosystem and producer and host of the webcast Think Differently at Defense Acquisitions University. This is her second time appearing as a Project Mercury referee. So welcome back, Dr. Theodotou. Brigadier General Eric Carney is Director of Plans, Programs, and Requirements, currently stationed at Headquarters Air Education and Training Command, Joint Base San Antonio, Randolph, Texas. He plans and programs a $7.6 billion annual budget supporting 60,000 personnel who recruit, train, and educate U.S. Air Force and international partners across 22 installations. He also leads AETC strategic planning and technical training, operational capability requirements. Welcome, General Carney.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So thank you all to the judges for refereeing for us today. I'd also like to recognize the Cohort 8 head coach and head waiver on this Zoom call, Dr. Ethan Eagle. Yes, with a head bob. That's perfect. Now, the Innovatrium did some heavy recruiting and brought in several ringers from military, academia, and industry to help these teams develop their projects. Rob Olson, Daryl Holness, Jim Fish, Brian Rajan Ralston, Joe Byram, Heidi Gustafson, Sarah Omrani, Dr. Dolores Cucina Mussina, Paul Ellis, Julie Pistol Jansen, and Michelle Coyle. I appreciate the applause. Yes, the round of applause. That's perfect. This coaching staff provided invaluable input and feedback to our teams as they developed their pitches. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce our host and also the 4th referee, the Vice Commander of Air University and Commander of the LeMay Center, Maxwell Air Force Base, Alabama, Major General William Holt.
Thanks, Mo. On behalf of Lieutenant General Andrea Tullis, she's the President of Air University, I want to say thank you to everyone who's joined us on the call today. And Dr. DeGraff, sir, if you're up, I know you're the founder of the Innovatrium. You've been a huge supporter in the past. So I want to say welcome, and we're delighted to have you with us again today. To our esteemed judges, General Carney, Ms. Martinelli, And Dr. Theodotou, thank you for taking the time to invest in our most important resource, which is our people. We've got a lot cut out for us today, so I'll keep my comments very short. I do want to say congratulations to everyone for making it this far in the cohort. Congratulations and thanks to the coaches for their time. And then I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about the Chief of Staff of the Air Force. So General Brown, our CSAF, has challenged us time and again with accelerate, change, or lose, kind of as a mantra for his time in command. And innovation is key to exactly what he's talking about. But what he was originally going to say, instead of accelerate, change, or lose, he was going to say accelerate, change, or die. He got talked out of that. But if you think about it, we are being challenged at every corner of the globe right now. If you look at what Russia's doing, if you look at what China's doing, and if we don't accelerate change, which is really what innovation is all about, we will find ourselves, you know, in a different rules-based order, different international order, where our values and those of our partners and allies are not on top, and that's not what we want to end up being. So this is the work you guys are doing is critical to getting after what our Chief of Staff has asked us to do. And it is about investing in our biggest strength, which is you who are involved in this, our people. So I want to just make sure I don't miss. I've got a couple of notes here, but I did say I was going to be fast, so I'll just wrap it up real quick. So I will challenge you as we leave today and move on into the future. We have to outthink, we have to outpartner, and we have to out-innovate our adversaries and our challengers. And I know we've got some NATO partners on here today. Thank you for your time for joining us today. I'm really, really excited to see today's showcase. Mo, your intro there has me interested in what they've accomplished. So without further ado, I'll hand it back to you and look forward to hearing what the team has.
So next, we want to welcome to the screen Dr. Jeff DeGraff, who is the head of FIFA, which stands for Founder of Innovation for All, but actually also, and more officially, he's known as the founder of the Innovatrium and builder of Project Mercury's curriculum. Dr. DeGraff is a professor of practice at the Ross School of Business at the, I don't remember where you teach. Oh, there it is, the University of Michigan. Dr. DeGraff, over to you, sir.
Thanks, Mo. First, I want to congratulate everybody on all the hard work. I know you've really gone above and beyond your normal duties. So congratulations on that. I really want to encourage you to keep moving forward. These ideas need to be operationalized. I spent a lot of time with the top of the Air Force, and there's a real interest. As General Holt had said, we've really got to get after this, and we got to get after this quickly. I want to really support what he said. Be ready to be called on to lead. You know, we've trained you to be leaders in innovation. Well, be ready, and also be ready to train people. See one, do one, teach one. So you've seen one and you've done one. Well, now you got to move on and help others. That's your job. I really want to encourage you to expand and continue your network. One of the wonderful things about introducing you to all these people, all these famous innovators, is now you know somebody. Get on the horn, or you know, text them, whatever you guys do. Keep feeding your mind, diversify your mind, hang around with people that you normally don't hang around with, expand your ability to innovate, model constructive conflict, build bridges. It's not about burning them, it's about building them. You know, and I will tell you here on the industry side and the academic side, we're here for you. We know we're going to need each other to win this fight. I love the old Herodotus saying, which is skill is all you have. War and outrageous fortune take all else. And I think that's something no one can take from you. And I really want to thank all of the coaches, all of the wonderful Air Force coaches. I want to thank the Innovatrium coaches. I want to thank Ethan and Celeste and Crash and very much Jim Drzansky, who's kind of the godfather of all of this, and General Tullis and General Holt, of course, for being here. So I want to thank everyone for the support of this program. And when you're done, not only will you get this beautiful little coin here, I know you guys are kind of obsessed with coins, and I will say that this one is, in my opinion, much prettier than most of the ones you have. And you get your neat little patchy thing here, but you also get a certificate from the University of Michigan saying that you are indeed a certified professional innovator. So congratulations, and Mo, on with the festivities.
Thank you. Thank you for introducing the technical term patchy thingy. I've been calling them something different all this time. So leave it to Dr. DeGraff. I appreciate that. But thank you to all of our senior leaders. Okay, now, so during Cohort 8, the 6 teams focused on competitive advantage with the charge to build collaborative networks outside the traditional Air Force lanes, just like Dr. DeGraff talked about. These teams dribbled through stubborn problems, they had a field of ambiguity, and they sought out unusual tactics to make a disproportionate impact. Regardless of whatever topic was chosen, these teams were intentionally designed to harness constructive conflict. No yellow cards and red cards, just constructive conflict. They refined their problems through statements, through research and prismatic thinking. They pursued connections relevant to their problem areas. They ran small experiments. They scrutinized the results for what was truly worth doing. They prepared a pitch, and they enlisted a sponsor. So let's get ready to kick off for the main event. All 6 teams are going to have the opportunity to share and discuss their findings with our esteemed panel and you, our innovation community. Round 1 of the pitches will be our first 3 teams who will be using a condensed, pre-recorded pitch, followed by 5 minutes of Q&A. After that, we're going to roll into round 2, which is our final 3 teams who will share their full-length pitches live, followed by 7 minutes of stoppage time, which we will just call Q&A today. Like the World Cup, this is an interactive event, so throughout all the pitches, we want you to comment, share information, wail on your vuvuzelas, and get connected in the chat. And for those of you who really want to feel like you're using a World Cup video assistant referee, videos from all 6 teams will be made available after this event on our LinkedIn page, and we'll put the link to that page in the chat. That way you'll be able to watch, rewatch, watch in slow motion, rewind, and watch all these pitches again. So speaking of the pitches, let's get on to them. As we roll these pre-recorded pitches, I want you to put on your best critic hat, because at the end of the first 3 pitches, you, the audience, will be voting for the best short version pitch. We'll begin to roll out the red carpet for the Project Mercury People's Choice Award. So the first one is going to be the first videos from Team 4, which is waist management. Now they looked at how to manage excess fat around your midsection. Nope, I'm sorry, that is the wrong waist. That is W-A-I-S-T. Team 4, waist, W-A-S-T-E, management looked at how to accelerate training for airmen and get them into the fight faster. They were coached by John Kerrigan and Julie Pistol Jansen. Team members, if you could you give us your best on-camera wave so we know who you are? And for all of our spectators, remember that these innovators collaborated virtually, as in they are not geographically co-located. This team represents the CONUS from Maryland to California with Ohio, Michigan, and Illinois in the middle there, right? Are we waving? All right. So with that, let's go ahead and roll the film.
Near-peer adversaries have driven the need for airmen with multiple specialties to account for attrition. The industrial age one-size-fits-all model of current training doesn't have individualized consideration for our incoming airmen. If multi-capable airmen are what we seek, what if I could tell you that they may already exist? They exist in the accessions process and the training pipeline, so how do we get them to the fight faster?
So to give a personal example, I came into the Air Force, I commissioned with a degree in computer science, and I then entered undergraduate cyber training. That was 6 months of a relatively introductory and fundamental basic cyber skills. That's what it's for. And I went through the course with a variety of backgrounds. Some folks had degrees in political science and other things that were not directly related to cyber operations. So what we're proposing here is that we actually capture the data folks bring in, whether it be degrees or other skills, and actually use that to tailor their training experience. Maybe they're able to skip the first block or the first phase of training and cut down that time they spend in training and get them into the fight faster.
So once we've identified this data, what are we going to do with it? We're going to identify equivalent experience for short course options. We're going to establish a transfer committee to determine full or partial credit, establish short courses for partial credits. Standardization is required because the current use is arbitrary. Some examples are, there's a short course maintenance officer school that's 19 days versus 3 months. It's going to save time and money. And full credit for Navy fixed-wing pilot training already exists, but there's 0 for Army Logistics Officer School for inter-service transfers.
So how do we implement these changes and ensure they're lasting? Lasting change isn't simply about adapting procedures or overhauling processes. It's cultural. In order to change the culture, we first need to target the language, in this case, the Air Force lexicon. Rather than speaking of accelerated training in terms of waivers and exceptions to policy that are often viewed negatively, We must reframe the discourse to use commonly accepted phrases such as transfer credit, proficiency advancement, and short courses to set this as the standard of training in the new norm. Secondly, we revised DAF policy, which will serve as a means to empower the entire training value chain, from staff elements down through the instructors themselves, to institute accelerated training as a standard. A key policy to enable these changes is DAF 362670, Total Force Development.
By capturing, identifying, and accelerating training, we have the ability to seize opportunities already provided by airmen. By doing so, we can shorten timelines of courses, free up resources so they can be used in more advantageous places, and make the entire career development continuum more efficient. It'll also set up for positions for future opportunities. We can enhance ascension placement to get the right airmen in the right AFSC. We can also build a data set for future recruiting, ascension, and career development programs that can bring us into the next step of how we incorporate new airmen and bring them into the force of the future.
Thank you, Team 4. I love when you talk about multi-capable airmen, and we had a multi-briefer tactic, so that was well played. I love that. We're going to give about 5 minutes for questions. I see some questions coming in the chat, but I want to start with the judges. Judges, what comments, questions, or pushback do you have?
Thank you, Mo. So I believe I have the first question. Is that correct? Wonderful.
Yes,
Thank you
ma'am.
so much, Team 4. Great work. I really enjoyed hearing your approach and the focused way that you built upon your quest to eliminate waste and really focus on identifying the skills for the airman and closing that gap and providing data-driven approaches versus arbitrary. We love the data-driven approach. My question to you is, what was the biggest hurdle during your effort and how did you push through it? How did you exercise your own innovation skills to push through the skills that you learned about harnessing constructive conflict and using prismatic thinking? I'd love to hear what was one challenge that you've faced and how did you push through it? Over to you.
So we rolled this out to some members of AATC, and we got some pretty pithy and pointed comments back from them. And initially, I think the resistance and reluctance we got was from a standpoint is it can't be done, and it's not being done here, right? Or you guys are from the outside, what sort of credibility, what value add do you bring to this process? And I think rather than shying away from those criticisms, we've taken those criticisms on board. Looked at how we can strengthen the proposal and then re-engaged some of those key individuals that gave us that feedback constructively and sort of to bring them in sort of into a team mindset into helping solve this problem. Basically we leverage the fact that we're offering ourselves as sort of added layer of capability or opportunity to help address kind of some vexing problems in a team format. Yeah, this got started kind of outside of their purview, but we've tried to draw them into that process. And I think we've been successful to do that. And now we have at least some key players who are willing to hear this out and work with us going forward.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Todd. I appreciate the fact that you took criticism as a gift and actually leveraged it to become better and iterate and engage and create more coalitions as you go through building your idea and driving it forward. Thank you. Great work.
I love that. And I see some questions are being asked and answered in the chat, which is awesome. William Holt, I believe, is that General William Holt has one question?
Yeah, Mo, that's me. I do have one quick question. So as the Doctrine Center Commander, we're in the middle of the development of doctrine for agile combat employment and multi-capable airmen. But also as a graduate of Navy fixed wing pilot training, I appreciate that the Air Force allows folks to transition across. When you were thinking through this and you met challenges like it was just discussed at AETC, did the concept of risk acceptance and prudent risk management come up? Because SOF does some of these kind of things where we accept we accept maybe more risk than others feel is necessary. And I saw the question about, is it different in combat versus non-combat environment? There's probably some truth in that, but I'm wondering if, especially if you talk to functional managers on any of the staffs, if you got pushback related to risk management.
Sure, I can jump in on that. That's like the common question we got is who's accepting risk with the accelerating any kind of training. The one of the things that like the scenarios they ran through was just like a mishap, and whether it comes to like an airplane crashing or some kind of category 1 mishap, which was like one of the first things they look at is where do they get trained and what happened. So that was definitely a question we were posed quite a bit, and that's why in the functional areas and the functional managers that we talked to, that was the common theme was who's going to be accepting this risk. And as a team collectively, and I think that's where like the innovation space goes through is how can we think away from automatically resulting a mishap going back to the training and getting kind of pushing through that type of scrutiny, because it's not always like where's the personal accountability. And that's where like our first tackle is going to be on a policy change to try to initiate some kind of mindset on the career field managers to start leveraging those types of things to make it sound like risk isn't as high as we think it is when it comes to that. So over.
If I may caveat off of that, sir, I'm with the Illinois National Guard and I work on the joint staff, and I will tell you, sir, that the implementation of this on the reserve side and guard side, multi-capable airmen and the concept of ACE, we're trying to figure out how to do that in a shortened time period. So where the acceptable risk comes in is, I know for a fact Illinois Guard has already issued like exception to policies or waivers that excuse people from training or certain portions of the training. And they're taking the risk on the fact that they're bringing civilian certifications and have the work experience from the civilian world that have already been doing the job. As well as the way we're getting around that big hurdle of risk management is in the policy. It's not directly stating you will send people to, it's without saying encourage. In the policy, it's saying like we encourage those wing commanders where the responsibility lies on to make that decision if they want to, if it pertains to them, if it's reasonable to then send those personnel to those courses. Over.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
That's awesome. Thank you, Team 4. That's some really good discussion. Again, there's good discussion happening in the chat as well. And for those of you who are not used to 2-stars, who are actually paying attention, reading the chat and listening and asking good questions, be ready. I guess we got that 2-star on with us today, so that's fantastic. So let's switch over to Team 1. This is the deliverables. And the deliverables looked at talent management, which is enhancing the human weapon system by matching the right person with the right AFSC. And Team 1 was coached by Kathy Conyers and Aaron Cross. So team members, same thing. Your first deliverable is to wave frantically at your webcam green dot so we know who you are. And so you guys all know these waves are coming at you from Virginia to Hawaii with palms that are being shown from Michigan, Colorado, and Nevada. So here we go. Team number 1, the deliverables.
Hi, I'm Ryan Owita. I go by Whip, and I'm here as a small part of Project Mercury Cohort 8, Team 1, tasked with looking and improving the human component of the human weapon system over the past 6 months. So what's the problem? The problem is the Air Force is losing the war on talent management, and we have been for some time. Our talent management failures aren't putting people in the right spots, and even worse, people are lucking into the right spots. Those who aren't are noticing that, getting unhappy, and leaving. Our team tried to develop a data-driven tool for job fit and job suitability, only to find that one already exists. The Air Force Work Interest Navigator tool is meant to match potential service members to jobs just like eHarmony matches couples. It's an existing, developed tool that uses behavioral science to get user self-assessment on skills and potential job satisfaction, and it's currently dying on the vine. Our ask is for less than $200,000 in 26 to 36 weeks to get AFWIN hosted on a platform for use at recruiting stations, commissioning sources, and follow-on units. If we get that, We get a data set that puts the right airman in the right place at the right time for initial job selection and follows an officer throughout their career. Just imagine the possibilities that data can bring to our existing systems and future development opportunities. That's our pitch, but prior to taking questions, we wanted to take some time to address a big question we were asked recently. Why Project Mercury? Why is this process so special? Well, we found two main reasons. First, we were able to leverage small team dynamics with our diverse backgrounds to develop a unique, very trying at times solution. We've got officers and enlisted, we have a ROTC instructor, top 3, senior E, Air Force fellows, Civil Air Patrol, all focused on one problem with their unique perspectives, which led to a unique process. And that process was the second component of what makes this solution unique. We found this to be the hardest part, but our team took multiple shots on goal. We walked through 6 different iterations of our problem statement and nearly 100 attempts to solve problems or experiment in order to arrive at this gold mine of an opportunity to use data to improve the way that humans interact with their Air Force future, which improves the human component of all human weapons.
Alrighty, so you get 1,000 points from me for using the phrase shots on goal during the World Cup semifinals. So that's awesome. I just need to also mention that Project Mercury gets no partnership or any money from eHarmony for the mention of that, I don't think, anyway. But I see some questions being asked and answers and contact information being passed there. That's great. But judges, let's go to you first. We'll start for the 5-minute Q&A section. Judges, what comments, questions, or pushback do you have?
So if you don't mind, this is Eric Carney. I'll get started. Really good presentation, Ryan. Thank you very much. A really professional presentation, and just the aesthetic feel of it and your voice was a good sell. I missed one part in there though. I thought I saw on the slide your ask was 150K, but I thought I heard a voiceover that said 230K. Did I miss something in that?
Hey, sir, it's Whip. I think what I said in the voiceover was less than $200,000, and we did want to include, we didn't want to jump off completely on the 156 number because, as you saw, is kind of a bullet. That is a rough order of magnitude from a few years back. Over.
Okay, super. No, super. One is, I guess, really let off with some really strong assertions that really, we're using, I think, almost to the F word, that our Air Force was failing in its talent management in some ways. And so just really, teasing that out a little bit more, I think will be very helpful to understand that, because sometimes it's easy to forget all the things we're doing right while you're able to focus on some areas where we definitely need to improve. But how do you capture in your model and in your work, how do you capture somebody's, the will effect? Not the skill issue, but the will issue. And the point is, you look at me and you grade me out and say, hey, this guy doesn't have these background traits, doesn't have these characteristics. He shouldn't go this direction. But like, how do you measure the heart, the will part? Does that make sense?
I do think it's a 52-question survey, and there are questions in that survey. How much do you like working outside? Or how important is air conditioning to you? So it's not just, what's your Python skill set, or, how fast can you run a mile? It's some of the feelings and emotions, or the yellow aspects, if you will, under our prismatic model are in there as well for that kind of behavioral science back end. But if, for example, in my results, cyber warfare was like the top fit for me, if I decided like, hey, my heart is not in that, I can filter out that entire community of 5 to 6 different AFSCs. Does that kind of address your question, sir? Over.
It does, but I was actually asking it in the inverse. I was asking for how does the person that wants to do something, I guess using your example, the person that wants to do cyber awareness, cyber skills, but you grade him out, grade him or her out in their background and don't score it that way. Over.
Copy that. And sorry, Team One, I know I'm kind of monopolizing the answers here, but I'll just take 20 more seconds. That was one of the things I like the most about this tool, because you can pre-filter your results. Like if you want to go into operations or special warfare, you can filter your results by that community and see a listing of AFSCs, even if it's like sub 60%. Hey, based off your answers, you're a 56% match for the Crow or Stowe, for example. Okay, well now you at least have that piece of data. It might be a little harder journey for you. You might want to reassess what do you want, or if you're a strong match, then maybe that would reinforce that. Over.
Okay, thanks for the answer.
Awesome. These are great questions. We're going to stop it there because we will also have Q&A in the breakout rooms later on. You can also keep the discussion going on in the chat. So that is fantastic. And I appreciate all the good conversation. So next up for the pre-recorded ones is Team 5, which is the Five-Eyed Ravens who worked on combating disinformation. They were coached by Joseph Hall and Nadia Fisher. Ravens, will you please do us the kindness, you see what I did there, of waving your claws at the camera so we know who you are? See, these two intelligent ravens know that a group of ravens is called an unkindness. Okay, but I suspect these two from Massachusetts and Missouri are maybe playing a Game of Thrones reference. Is that right? If that is the case, then thank you for brainstorming and taking us behind the wall with combating disinformation. I am on a roll with these. I love it. Okay, Crash gets me, yes. All right, Courtney, our producer rolling the videos. You got, see, GOT, I'm on a roll. You've got the pitch and roll it.
By 2050, the convergence of science, technology, and computing capabilities will give rise to the exponential weaponization of information, making it increasingly difficult to assess information's authenticity, truthfulness, and security. We will be unable to detect disinformation and, when undetected, it will propagate discord and confusion, delaying and undermining decision-making. The battle against disinformation will become quantitatively and qualitatively more critical than ever witnessed in the history of warfare. Already, our foreign adversaries are utilizing advanced disinformation techniques in the war on Ukraine, targeting military and civilian populations to cease hostilities. These techniques are being tested and perfected for future conflict use. While there are efforts to combat disinformation, they fall short of what is needed. A coordinated effort across the Air Force is required to stay informed and ahead of targeted campaigns that disrupt military operations. Enter Task Force DIS-X, a dedicated task force comprised of diverse domain experts, military strategists, information warfare officers, artificial intelligence and machine learning experts, data scientists, social media chief operating officer or expert, digital directors, relevant academia, and operational warfighters. These experts will evaluate disinformation attacks and facilitate the development of countermeasures using emerging technologies. We are seeking Air Force Special Operations Command and $150,000 to host a 4-day collaborative strategy workshop at Holt. Task Force DIS-X will provide the challenge, and participants will develop solutions. The event's success will be the foundation for others across the Department of the Air Force to follow in developing targeted solutions for their commands. Working proactive, targeted solutions to foreign adversaries' disinformation campaigns gives us the best competitive advantage against these non-kinetic threats.
Wow, you've just heard the MC for next year's showcase. That was well done, and it's apparently a deep fake of Heather's voice. But that might be a joke. All right, we will start the 5-minute Q&A, and judges, of course, we're going to give you first dibs. So what comments, questions, or pushback do you have?
Well, if I can jump in as a lifelong military intelligence professional, I'd love to. One of the things that you said early on in the video is that it would be impossible to sort through real information from disinformation. And I'm wondering, essentially, if you find that to be a technology barrier to kind of working that problem set out, or if it's a sociological barrier with the way that people kind of assess and consume information and determine what is true?
That's a great question. Thanks for that. So through our research, we found that it's actually both. So not only are we behind in a lot of technology that we see our adversaries are able to either produce or are currently working on or using, but also it's the digital literacy piece or digital competencies as far as what we know for training, what we believe to be true, how we fact check, and critical thinking skills.
So with that being said, can you unpack a little bit with your recommendations? It seems like it was heavy on tech and light on those kind of, I think you called them digital literacy skills.
So we focused more on technology just because we weren't for sure what training our airmen really want to see, right? Like the last thing we want to do is throw a CBT at people and be like, hey, do this. That's not the solution to this problem. It's bigger than that. And then through our research, we also found that maybe at each command, it's not a unified solution. So it could be depending on what each unit needs or what each COCOM commander's needs would be. So by setting up this workshop, it allows these experts in the field to come in and help facilitate our own members, so our airmen and guardians, to go in and develop the solutions that work for their command while guided by the experts from those fields.
Great, thank you. I'll turn it over to General Holt.
Hey, thanks. It's a really good brief. Just one comment. So our squadron officer school here recently, maybe 6 months ago, did a 5-week think tank on almost the same subject in support of General Hawk, the Air Force Cyber Command or US Cyber Command DCOM at the time. And so I think some of those students, there were some, it was very interesting to hear what they had to pitch. It wasn't exactly what you had, but I think some of them might, or you might benefit from an attachment to some of them if you have this conference. So I'd like to put you in touch with them. I don't remember what my question was now, so I just have that one comment.
That's great. Thank you, sir.
That is fantastic to have this network of things. Are there any other questions? We have about 1.5 minutes. Yeah, Crash, these are great connections to have this. And Dr. DeGraff is talking about an article that's in there too. I tell you what, let's go ahead and we'll wrap up the Q&A for this because we can always continue this in the chat. We can pursue those connections. And General Holt, feel free if the question comes back to you, we can pop that in the chat too. I would also ask the two team members, if you had to grade the MC on Game of Thrones wordplay and Raven puns, feel free to let me know what score you would give me, as long as it's a good one. So. All right, so we're going to wrap up with the first virtual the pre-recorded ones. So thank you to our first 3 teams. That was Team 4, Waste Management, Team 1, the Deliverables, and thank you for my A+, Heather, and Team 5, the Five-Eyed Ravens. Now, to our Zoom community, it is your time to vote on the People's Choice Award. We are going to open up a poll, and using that poll that is in my way now, that you will choose which team has proposed how to solve a real problem with a real solution, and if it has that wow factor. These are your choices. So the poll is open now. You're going to have 2 minutes. What we'll do is we'll collect the results and we'll announce the winner during the awards portion of the showcase. So everybody should be able to see the poll there now. While teams 4, 1, and 5 go and get ready for the red carpet awards portion, we are going to transition to our second half of presentations, our 3 live full-length pitches. So first up, I am delighted to introduce Team 2, Giant Crayon Precise Attack. They were coached by Craig Bying and Kristen Torma. Now remember, you can still keep using the chat feature, which you guys are doing great, and you can ask questions during their pitch. But for now, I will turn the screen over to Team 2. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon. We are Giant Crayon Precise Attack, and this is the Ember Endeavor. At the end of our video, you can join our community of practice with the available QR code or the link in the chat. what does the center of the innovation ecosystem look like? When we're taking care of our innovators, we are providing a centralized location where they can connect with those around them and where they can find the support and fuel needed to continue in their work. An innovation hearth. And this is not a new concept. When we think of innovation, we like to think of it as a bolt of lightning, a singular act of perfect brilliance illuminating everything around it. Lightning in a bottle. That's what a lot of innovation is around the DAP. But right now, what we're really doing is just stacking wood out on the plains, hoping lightning might hit the spot we need it to. And what about the innovators? What about the community of people who have the flashes of thought, but then go their separate ways at the end of the event or after the deadline?
Innovation efforts in the Air Force are event-driven or deadline-focused. Sure, competitive events and funding might get headlines in the short term, but what about those who never get through the gate? Even worse, what about those who do not even know where the gate is? Did you know that there are more than 100 Spark cells around the Air Force? Unfortunately, some innovation cells are brand new with no guidance. Others are dying off because of lack of support and even more isolated and do not know how to connect. Even if a Spark cell clears these 3 huddles, they have to fight against the current process. Imagine Airman Snuffy submits an idea to an innovation cell. How long do they wait? What if the idea is not accepted? Our research shows that the Air Force's Airman Powered by Innovation program has 70% of its ideas being archived. Some never been seen. And the airmen who submitted those ideas, do they feel like they belong if their ideas were archived? So even after the time has passed, our would-be innovator gets a response. And for some of them, the answer is a no. We cannot use your idea at this time. For them, the innovation spark is over until they send their next idea along. Why are we keeping our airmen out in the cold waiting? How many airmen's innovation ideas have we lost because we cannot connect with them fast enough? Or worse, how many airmen have left to join outside industries because those companies saw the innovative fire that the Air Force has missed? You see, the ideas are sparks, but people are embers. What is the difference between a spark and an ember? While the spark is flashy and fast, the ember is longer lasting. And within the right conditions, it can reburst into a flame. An ember simply needs a little bit more oxygen and a little less moisture. In the innovation world of events and deadlines, if resources are oxygen and roadblocks are moisture, then maybe more resources and fewer roadblocks might be all it takes to create, maintain, and build that sense of community and connection.
So we present to you the Ember Endeavor, an innovation effort that focuses not on the innovations, but rather the innovators. Drawing on our experiences through more than 24 interviews, multiple surveys, both online and from conferences, we've designed a program of engagement centered on connection and whose purpose is to stoke the fires of innovation for the whole ecosystem. Ember will serve as a centralized innovator relationship management system. Right now, individual cells and programs are managing how they stay in touch and communicate with people, but there's no integrated or purposeful approach. Rather than having every organization worrying about how to stay connected to their people and the community as a whole, Ember provides the hearth to serve as an intentional innovator relationship management system. When an airman decides to join the Air Force innovation ecosystem, it can be daunting. If that individual gets limited responses in those initial moments, it can cost us their trust and their insights. Instead of waiting for weeks or months to find out if their ideas are shut down or accepted, how can we connect them to the right team for their project? Ember will begin connecting them to the ecosystem within days. The Ember Endeavor does not focus on the idea, but on the person behind it. We aim to encourage those that want to be innovative by providing them with a place for connection, learning, and growth. What happens when they enter the space? When our airman receives the invitation to join Ember, they're not just coming for a platform, discussion board, or an open-ended community. They're not just looking for some place to go or something to do. When they join Ember, they're going to receive specific guidance and actions to take based on where they are in their journey and where they want to go. This includes finding those who are holding the embers in their own silos and bringing them to the larger hearth. By refocusing the ecosystem process to support all potential entrants, We'll produce a body of innovators whose knowledge, skills, and energy can be tapped in a community of practice. We continue to engage with those innovators throughout the ecosystem in an intentional way that seeks to integrate silos and share capabilities in a meaningful way.
Any organization that is willing to participate and connect with the Ember Endeavor will get access to that community of practice. This not only provides new channels of communication, but the data that comes as a result of events and activities. Through the community of practice that the Ember Endeavor creates, we will light the way for innovators to connect and thrive in the innovation ecosystem. The Ember Endeavor will tend to the fires, but to measure the success of a community of practice, we need to study these three things: personal knowledge, strength of relationships, and access to information. This community is built through outreach and a constant schedule of events and activities in order to drive and maintain interest in attracting these new innovators. These innovators are then primed and ready to attack whatever challenge is placed in front of them and aware of any opportunities that are broadcast through that network.
In order to do this, we need help. We need someone to be the first to send the innovators to us and allow us to support them. After pitching to several Air Force innovation platforms, such as Vision, Tesseract, and Morpheus, all three agreed that there is a need for the Ember Endeavor, that single community. The Ember Endeavor will elevate all components of the innovation ecosystem like Vision and Tesseract, and even those of you here in Project Mercury, because we lead you to this community of practice. The capability to create the Ember Endeavor exists. However, to pilot this innovation hard for at least 1,000 people, we are asking roughly $1.1 million in future funding. This will allow us to build the application itself, support it with a team of 6 full-time employees, and launch it within the Air Force innovation ecosystem, so that we can have people to build the system, people to manage and maintain it, and most importantly, people to engage and participate. Once again, we are your Ember Endeavor, and we thank you so much for your time today.
That was fantastic, you guys. Nice, well done. Yes, yes. Clap if you're. There we go. See the hands. Thank you so much for appealing to my pyromaniac tendencies. I feel all warm inside. And then you'll notice in the chat, Ethan dropped an Indiana Jones reference and then a Tinder reference. So well played there, Ethan. We're gonna do 7 minutes for questions, and so again, great work, Giant Crayon, precise attack. And time for the judges' comments and questions first. And so General Carney, we're actually going to let you kick it off, and I will start the 7-minute timer. But General Carney, over to you first, please.
Yeah, really first-class presentation. Hard not to get excited about it, and you could feel the passion from each one of the presenters about their topic and commitment to it. So, you know, Dr. DeGraff does a great job in his presentation about talking about various types of innovators and the different personalities and that sort of thing. But what I missed in this is, if we did all this and we did this, I gave you the 1.1 million. I had it to give it to you. I gave it to you, and you set this up. How does this get beyond just a group therapy session for aspiring innovators and struggling innovators? Where is that next level? Because that's what I'm trying to get after. That's where I'm trying to see where this goes beyond that.
So to answer your question, we are having that same debate internally about what would be the most effective and where is the biggest bang for the buck out of that community. And the opening response would be, I think we will see a reduction in the number of ideas that get archived or get closed down without ever being seen. We'd see an increase in the speed at which we process those ideas. And we'd also have a greater body of innovators to turn to and contribute these problems to. So that was the expectation we would have.
Okay, great. Thank you for the follow-up. And I'll just close with my comment and over to the larger group. I'll just tell you that, you know, the Air Force and DOD and government, it's a different bureaucracy. It's a big bureaucracy, and it's different than it struggles to align with innovators, and innovators struggle to fit inside of it many times. I'll just offer you there's 3 things I think of that get innovation attention immediately. Is if you can show a manpower savings, you can show an increase in safety / reduction of mishaps, or you can show a direct money savings. And so that's just one thing I'd put back to all of you as talented innovators. I am not an innovator, but I can look at an innovation and say, we can take that and go do X and save this or increase the efficiency by whatever. And so I just offer you some kind of infusion in your platform that allows that, because that is what bureaucracies, especially DOD, will or respond to.
Thank
Over.
you.
And there's also, you guys can see in the chat, Dr. Theodotou has a possible connection, collaboration with the Marines, and we can get past the Marine part. But Trish Martinelli, you also had a question too. Did you want to speak to it? I see it in the chat, but would you rather speak to it?
Sure. Well, this speaks to the heart of what the Defense Innovation Defense Entrepreneur Forum is all about. There are also some people in our trade space, if you want to use a corporate term, the Federal Innovators Salon, the Federal Innovators Network, and some other both nonprofit and commercial use kind of platforms. So I'm wondering what the unique value proposition of your proposal is in comparison to those people in your trade space.
Yes, ma'am. So thank you for that question. Actually, it's a really good question. So I think for us is we are focusing on the lower level, the airman level, right? Unfortunately, I think sometimes when you get to that depth, you have already reached that 5, 6 different levels in the innovation platforms, or you already broke into that door. We are trying to reach airmen who don't even know where the door is. So, we kind of brought up the spark cells. You have these wing level spark cells who don't have any support or don't know where the support is. So we would like to be that support so we can lead these lower level airmen who don't know where the spark in the box is located at. Let's say you are somewhere in Guam who do not know what DEF is. And ma'am, honestly, 2 months ago, I did not know what DEF was either until I joined and until I collaborated with people. So that is our main focus, is not the higher level, but those who are still trying to figure out where that door is. Over.
I would love to have you join DEF. And now I will step aside.
These are great conversations and great, they're not just questions, they are conversations. So we got about 2 minutes left. Does anybody else want to pop off a mute and ask a question of Giant Crayon Precise Attack? AKA GCPA?
Can I jump in here, Mo, for just a minute?
Yes, sir, of course.
One of the things, being the old timer on the group, is that in the world of the academy and in the world of entrepreneurial forums, of which I've been a member of for 40 years, these communities exist. In fact, the odd person out is the military. We worked on the COVID vaccine. I don't know if you know this. We work on very big, complicated issues every day in our economy, and the way that our research institutions are organized. All you got to do is drive around Palo Alto or Cambridge or Ann Arbor, or any of these places. You'll see the future of all this. So one thing I'd like you to think about carefully is less about inventing and more about building meaningful bridges, so that it's not, how do I get them to come to my community, right? Because in a sense, you're on the wrong side of that. How do you get into these communities that already exist and are intact? That's something I'd ask you to think about.
Yeah, and to follow that up, I mean, I would love to know how we could do this on behalf of the Air Force as well. So, it kind of hurts my heart to hear that someone painted DEF as a platform for senior people. I would encourage you to talk to Daniel Holter, who I think was an E4 when he started essentially changing the Air Force, one facilitation at a time. But again, would love to both have more people from the Air Force involved in our virtuous insurgency, and to hear from you how we can better support the Air Force.
These are great conversations and a great eye-opening to see the different platforms that are there. But for now, we will put our crayons down because that's all the time we have. And there's a side chat going on. Ethan, I believe, is reaching out to General Carney, who says he's not an innovator and you can join Ember for a one-time membership fee of $1.1 million. I believe that's the way I'm interpreting that. Yeah, Barbara's excited. I knew you would be. All right. Well done, Team 2. Next up is Team 3, the Guardians of Agility. GOA. They were coached by Groot, Trash Panda, and Gamora. No, I'm sorry, wrong Guardians. The Guardians of Agility were coached by Brent Harlan, Paul Ellis, and Doug Fullingham. Ladies and gentlemen, Team 3, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Excited. Good afternoon, Mercury Cohort 8, and hello to our esteemed guests and colleagues. I'm excited to represent Guardians of Agility today and speak to you on something we're very passionate about. As the Guardians of the Galaxy use the Milano ship to navigate unknown places in the galaxy, we propose to use the Milano Addendum to maximize innovation, leverage agility, and negate obstacles. We look back at our history at things like the Doolittle raid and marvel at the courage and the innovation involved at accomplishing what had never been done before. What drove that? Really, necessity and crisis. However, we cannot wait for the enemy to drive us to innovate. Agility should be the norm, not just a Herculean effort when in crisis. Similar to the way the aircraft were stripped down before the Doolittle raid, we say it's time to throw the chair out the plane and make it lighter so we can go farther. It's time to take a hard look at our training processes and address a time and resource consuming problem now before we're driven by a crisis. So this is a quick overview of what I'm going to talk about today with the problems in our current training development, building in that flexibility, why we believe this will work, and the way ahead. If you fast forward from the Doolittle raid to now, there are many examples of situations that could have been anticipated had we embraced an agile mindset. Just one internet search of night vision goggles and military training accidents will provide a number of examples to illustrate a problem we're facing with outdated training. Issues with night vision equipment training can be linked to helicopter crashes and vehicular accidents that happen during that result in severe injury or even death in some cases. One specific example points to a training accident that happened during Joint Mobile Medical Team training. A member was run over by a Humvee, and it was determined that the root cause was that the mobile medical team was not properly trained on how to effectively use night vision equipment while driving. This DoD level investigation concluded in June 10th of 2020. The findings from that investigation resulted in curriculum modification, but that modification was just finalized last week. So that's 2.5 years later after the findings were published. We found that even under the best conditions, without any type of safety investigations or other risks involved, updates to training still equals a training rewrite, which takes up to at least 18 months. The current process requires changes to be accomplished via a lengthy course rewrite and validation process. Can you imagine taking your car to get repaired somewhere and being told, rather than doing some small repairs or upgrades, they're going to just completely rebuild the car and give it back to you? Oh, and it's probably going to take at least 18 months. It's time that we revamp this process. Bringing it back to a tech school specific example, aircrew flight equipment tech school training. Oftentimes the equipment is upgraded in the field to enable the warfighter, and that's awesome, but the curriculum doesn't necessarily keep up with the technology. And the students are taught how to use obsolete equipment or equipment that's no longer used until the rewrite can be done and completed. When we spoke to experts across DoD organizations, academia, and industry partners about this 18-month timeline, at the top of the slide here, they all agreed that it's just too much time. Not to mention, by the time the change is implemented, the information may be outdated. We're here to propose that we establish accelerated training updates for technical training programs to reduce the update process from 18 months to 3.5 months, with the potential of even shorter timelines as we continue developing the process and teams become more familiar with the use of this flexible addendum. We're able to do this by slimming down the current training plan to a static training plan that includes only the core competencies, an effort that AETC Competencies Office is already moving forward on in certain technical training courses. What's unique about our proposal is that on top of the core competencies, we'll then add an addendum, namely the Milano Addendum, with updates to make a plug and play training plan that's flexible and easy to modify to allow for relevant and timely changes. This means we can update the training plan through a revision rather than a cumbersome rewrite. Let's talk about why we think this will work. We talked to contacts at AETC, the Signal Advisors Group, Air University, USAF, NavalX, NorthSpark, and many, many more. And we've confirmed that this problem is very real. Those we spoke to in industry cringed at hearing timelines of 18 months, stating it would be a waste of time and money and it would probably be wrong. This is significant. There is significant value in implementing an iterative process that allows for timely course modification. We interviewed various people about how training and education curriculum is updated today, what processes they use, what works, what doesn't work, and how they foresee overcoming future challenges. And we talked about what an ideal timeline and outcome looks like. We modeled our agile timeline off of these findings. On top of these interviews with these experts, we spoke to AETC Studies and Analysis Squadron, whose team is dedicated to performing efficacy studies. They've analyzed and weighed in on programs like Pilot Training Next and the Maintenance Career Field's use of virtual reality and augmented reality to enhance training. We pitched them our idea and they wait excitedly to hear back to do the studies on our proposed change. We already see this change working in units like the 59th Training Group. Based on the specialized search dog course out of the 341st Training Squadron, the 59th quickly realized that its curriculum was slow to adapt to shifting enemy tactics, techniques, and procedures. To combat this issue, the curriculum was reviewed and then modified by incorporating static foundational core tasks. These tasks were then supplemented by a series of malleable scenario-based support elements. This allowed for the incorporation of rapid change as data is received relative to current enemy tactics. Training scenarios were then easily adapted to suit the situation and quite literally keep the dogs and their handlers in the fight. If we don't do something about these timelines, we stand to lose competitive edge. We stand to lose the creative energy that comes from effective, operationally relevant training experiences. If the outcome we want is our organizations to be ground zero for accelerating change across the United States Air Force, that means seeking ways to instill agile processes and training practices that can continue to flex over time as threats evolve. With a mindset focused on those going through training, both sides of the aisle have some skin in the game. The commanders responsible for training have the opportunity to see change implemented during their command tour. If there are any changes to be made via the 18-month timeline, that command tour is practically up by the time maybe one possible iteration goes through. Implementation of the Milano Addendum would give the opportunity for commanders to see several important revisions executed in a single tour. They can see the training plans evolve as the operational environment continues to evolve. As for trainees' home unit commanders, they'd be receiving airmen ready to hit the ground running instead of airmen who unfortunately are told, forget what you learned in tech school, this is what you really need to know to contribute to the fight, which I'm sure more than one person listening in our pitch today has either heard or said once or twice in their career. To take this on, the risk involves going against the grain of an outdated, comfortable process and investing time to continually develop and iterate to meet the challenges of a constantly changing threat environment. We've confirmed there's an issue with how long it takes to update training, and we propose that the Milano Addendum will enable flexibility within the current construct. Now let's talk about some additional benefits. Time. Reducing the time it takes to develop curriculum from 18 months to 3.5 months results in freeing up about 9,600 man hours. That's roughly the equivalent of 4 people dedicating their entire focus to one effort over a year. Consider the time saved across multiple technical training programs and development teams. Money. We estimate $92,000 difference between the two models. Multiply that across 196 AFSCs, and that's not including pilot training specialties, and it can result in over $17 million saved. So you save some time and you save some money, but most importantly is the fact that you'll be providing built-in flexibility and arming a ready force with training that's effective against an ever-evolving threat. So what's next? Here's what we're asking for. In all of our shots on goal, when asked how we could get this going, we heard leadership buy-in. Leaders need to understand the value in accelerating the revision feedback loop and work to remove barriers for their teams. The Milano Addendum enables that. It will involve a dedicated 4-person team refocused on curriculum revision rather than rewrite, with progress checks every 6 weeks. The process will continually be refined and offer opportunity to reduce time lengths even more. We're asking to invest time up front to get it right, to invest in your ultimate resource, your people. This is what the Milano Addendum does. It'll maximize innovation, involving the SMEs and an accelerated change process, giving our innovative airmen the tools to make timely change. It'll leverage agility by benefiting the agile and iterative processes out there, and also negate obstacles by building in that flexibility within the construct to overcome barriers. Now we excitedly wait for any questions.
Well done, Laura, and thank you for putting the shots on goal in there. You know, you got to know your audience. So I appreciate that. So that's great. For that, Milano was more than a cookie, so I appreciate that. And there's some good chatter going on and some connections being made. So thank you to Team 3. We're going to start the 7 minutes of Q&A, and we're going to go to our judges first. And Miss Martinelli, I'm going to put you on the spot. We'll let you throw in the first question for Team 3.
No, I think this, oh boy, it says unmute myself. Okay, are we good? All right, great. No, I think this is great. And I love the timelines that you were looking at and those projections. Going back to some of the leadership guidance that we heard earlier, were you able to take a look at a cost assessment for this, given that you may be saving time and time equals money?
Well, what we saw was a lot of time savings, and for the manpower, the people that are already on those 4-person development teams, they would just be shifting their focus from the current process and moving over to this progress check every 6 weeks. So if anybody else, I know Gary had some inputs for that before in the past too, if you wanted, anybody else wanted to chime in from the team.
I'll jump on it, Laura. Yes, if you look at a normal team and take that 18-month timeline, ma'am, you're looking at, if everybody's dedicated all at one time, like 9,600 man hours that go into a project like this. And the problem is that's on a fast burn. What we'd like to do is condense it to make core capabilities out of the curriculum, regardless of what it is, to say this is what we want taught and make that a box for each one of those elements. So those tasks get measured. If we put the sub elements into that box, those can plug and play as we need to. So that saves time, not only in the development process, but also if we're getting those things online and implemented when something happens. So for instance, with military medical, some of the issues we look at is there's different mission sets. You may have a combat mission set. You may also have like a DISCA, Defense Support to Civil Authorities mission set, or maybe humanitarian. And in the future, if we can nail this down right, we could plug and chug even those mission sets as part of the curriculum. You would take one addendum away and put a new one in based on what you have to meet with the threat at that time over.
Ms. Martinelli, any follow-on questions? Does that answer your question?
Yep, that's great. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, and Gary, let's keep the Go Navy banter going. Let's minimize that. But you're okay though, because you got the trash panda over your shoulder there. Is there anybody else who's watching who wants to? There's a lot of questions that are being asked and addressed in the chat, which I love. Is anybody else that's watching want to come off and fire away at the Guardians of Agility? General Holt, what's with the Fly Navy stuff? And it's all caps. What is happening here?
I just went to Navy Potter and had 3 flying assignments with the Navy, so I got to root for him sometime.
All right, can we mute him? Okay, good. He muted himself. Thanks, sir. Oh my goodness, all the Navy bashing is happening. So we still have like 4 minutes. So maybe I'll ask a question for my Guardians of Agility. If you had 1 more month of time, how would you have used that, and what would you have done with that time?
Personally, I would have kept interviewing more folks. I actually have a lot of folks in my email inbox that I need to get back to to get kind of their feedback on this and see how we could scale it. So right now we're looking at ways to implement it at the 59th. And so I think there's the potential here to scale, and there's many other interested folks to see how they can apply it.
I want to jump in here, Mo, real quick. One of the things you might want to think about is not just the content side of this. One of the key areas are the heuristics of it. And the reason I put fintech in there is I need you to think about how quickly markets shift. We train people at the Raw School of Business, all the top business schools do, and what I call trading formations, strategies, lenses. So let's say there's a dozen of them that you learn, and in any given period of time, like in a 10-minute window at Goldman Sachs or whatever, you'll be told that there's a difference. Now, why that's important is not only are the modules going to be changed, but what we do with them, how we interpret them also changes. So I think there's something that could be learned. Think of it like a meta system on top of the system you build, not making it more complicated, but creating kind of clusters or minute strategies of what to do with it. I really like your idea a lot. I just think there might be some things you can do with it to really screw yourself into the learner.
Thanks, Dr. DeGraff. And and then Celeste, just to kind of pull you out of the chat, are you, did you get your questions answered in Celeste? You were chatting with people, and I want to make sure that you had your issues addressed, and it looks like it was, but I just want to make sure you had a chance.
I sure do. I suspect that one of the reasons why it takes long to change curriculum is it's hard for us to make decisions on what not to teach anymore when we keep adding new techniques, and so a lot of this stuff goes back to the amount of risk that we're willing to take and who is responsible for making that final call. And long processes seem to make everyone feel a little more comfortable with that.
Yeah, right. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, and good answers too on how you would use an extra month of time. And then Crash, I think your answer about who the baton we would get handed to next is good. So good. We can always continue this conversation. I don't mean to put you guys on the spot any more than I'm going to put anybody else on the spot, but appreciate those answers and appreciate these conversations and connections. So with that, we will let you guys off the hook. So great job to Team 3. And our final pitch will be from Team 6. Bass or bass? Or is it bass or bass? You guys will tell me. You guys were coached by John Moose Damaris and Trevor Loki Elbin. Ladies and gentlemen, I hand it over to Team 6.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Team 6. Mo, as you pointed out, we are Team 6. Is it bass or base? Kind of an allusion here to the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, and we were the team that was tasked with the smart bases infrastructure in the Air Force. Slide, please. Actually, before I get started, I just kind of want to level the room here that, yes, there was an Army-Navy game, but that the Commander-in-Chief's trophy is safely residing in Colorado Springs at the U.S. Air Force Academy where it rightly belongs. So now that we've kind of leveled the room here, we can go through our team here for Team Bass or Base. So we were led by Tom Parks. He's an IT technician in the 5th Comm Group. He was honestly the SME for our project, brought a lot of technical expertise from his career field into this project. We had Edgar Hyam, who is a due diligence and signature management superintendent in SOCOM with great connections to industry. James Smokey Williams is an innovator in the private sector, as well as an AFWorks fellow. And then we had Molly Shepard, who is CE by trade, but she's an ROTC instructor at the University of Michigan, although she's a closet Ohio State fan. So sorry to out you here instead of in front of Dr. DeGraff as an Ohio State fan, but I think you can take it. And then finally, myself, I'm an HH-60 pilot by trade and a defense fellow at the Mitchell Institute. Next slide, please. I want to take you guys to a little bit of a thought experiment here and just a little bit of a role playing as we introduce our problem set. So this is something that we've all had in the Air Force, but as you log into your government issued Air Force laptop, what's exactly happening while that wheel of death spins around for up to 8 minutes and you log in? Well, the answer is you're logging into the AFNet system. Anytime you log in through installation or through VPN, you're going through the AFNet architecture to access the Air Force network. And this infrastructure exists ostensibly to protect the Air Force IT enterprise. If you want to think about it, AFNet is almost like a huge moat around the castle that is our Air Force network. Once you're inside that moat, inside the castle, you can access all of the applications. And while that has applicability, it does come at a cost to our airmen. We assess those costs to be bandwidth, time, and entire squadrons of comm troops and equipment that we use to maintain the AFNet infrastructure. You'll see on your screen there in a recent test of times to complete tasks between Air Force computers and personal computers, login took up to 8 minutes or 6 times as long on an Air Force computer as a personal computer. If you add that 8 minutes up, that's 49,000 hours just for our total force to get logged in to start work for the day. Other metrics we looked at to kind of scope this problem was CPU usage as well. So the next screenshot you see up there, this is a screenshot from Smokey. He's one of the members of our team. He's logged in his computer for about 2 or 3 minutes, and he's got no applications open, and he's got 69% of his CPU already being used without even starting work. Once again, extrapolate this out to 300,000 plus members of the Air Force, and we've got a real problem with our IT. Next build, please. We've also got the issue of cybersecurity. So as I mentioned, that castle and moat system does have applicability. What it also does is it provides a huge attack surface for our adversaries, both state and non-state actors, to attack us in the cyber domain. In a recent study by the 561st Network Operations Squadron, the Air Force suffers over 1 million NIPR attacks per day. What that means, that's in large part due to this large IT infrastructure that we have to support. We basically have a huge digital front that we have to protect over 208 individual base networks, which makes us extremely vulnerable to cyber attack. Next build, please. Also, we know that the rank and file of the Air Force is becoming increasingly dissatisfied with Air Force IT issues. I mean, this was pretty evident in the recent hashtag #FixOurComputers trend that went viral in a letter from my Air Force MIT Artificial Intelligence Accelerator, Michael Cannon, went viral with 2,400 likes on Reddit. It caught the attention of the Air Force CIO as well as the Secretary of the Air Force. And I think the Air Force IT problem is best summed up by one of our tactical instructor pilots at Nellis. And what he said, slide, is Air Force IT, it's killing us. I joined the Air Force to fly fast jets. I spend so much time at a computer that my skills as a tactical aviator are deteriorating. I'm an instructor pilot, for God's sakes. It's awful. Slide, please. So you're probably asking yourself, due to these high operating costs with AFNet, it begs the question, why is the Air Force shackling itself to this cumbersome infrastructure? We at Team 6 think there is an answer to this problem. It involves harnessing the speed, bandwidth, and responsiveness of commercial internet service providers. It also involves reducing the service's exposure to network attack via a smaller attack surface. What we plan on doing is migrating the majority of applications from AFNet to commercial internet service providers via cloud architecture. This follows the tech trends that are already going on in the industry right now, and it's the same concept you use on your home PC with your financial institutions. And we see this as a fourfold benefit. One, it's going to increase our cybersecurity via a smaller attack surface. Two, it's going to address the very vocal needs of our airmen with their IT infrastructure. Three, it proves the ability of the service to be responsive. And four, it gives valuable time back to our warfighters to focus on near-peer threats. And with that, I'll give it over to Tom.
Thanks, Mongo. So how do we remove the AFNet shackles? Well, right now, I can access everything I could on an AFNet computer from my home office on my own personal computer. So what if we just pipe commercial internet to the work center? One of the most significant benefits of AFNet as a service is the reduction of our current infrastructure. And by reducing this extensive physical and virtual footprint, we can eliminate up to 208 base networks that require manpower and money to defend, maintain, and operate. AFNet as a service could reduce the overhead from hundreds of bases to a few data centers. Reducing the virtual footprint, in turn, reduces the potential attack surface, presenting a much smaller target to our adversaries. Instead of defending those 208 large base networks, we only need to, instead of defending those 208 large base networks, we only need to defend the applications, the servers that run them, and the local infrastructure of the data centers. Last, but definitely not least, the services currently provided by the AFNet can be offered as applications and hosted in the cloud, providing application layer security. This supports the trust nothing, verify everything concepts of zero trust. So the problem we're trying to solve is an Air Force-wide issue. And this project is a concrete step we can take to improve our efficiency and productivity while directly addressing airmen's concerns. Our solution can be tested at a small scale and will be scalable to the total force. With this problem being so prevalent, I'm sure you're thinking that we're already getting after this. Well, the current fix for our network woes has been to purchase more powerful computers, as per a memo from the Secretary of the Air Force dated April of this year. According to that memo, the minimum system requirements for an AFNet computer includes 32 gigabytes of RAM, which rivals most mid-tier gaming computers. This is not a practical or sustainable solution when the majority of computer usage is associated with email, Microsoft Office products, routine internet use, and accessing other Air Force systems. This non-solution costs around $180 per machine and will potentially cost the Air Force upwards of $60 million in RAM alone. Not only is this expensive, it still doesn't address the root cause. So what do we do about it? By running a small scale test, we can prove that work centers don't actually require an entire Air Force network to be productive. This test will find gaps in our current capabilities so we can build a plan to bridge those gaps and scale the capabilities. To conduct this test, we'll need a base to host it, a unit to run the test, 100 non-standard desktop configuration computers, and a dedicated commercial internet service provider. We would like to run this test for around 6 months. The cost for this portion of the test is approximately $50,000 for the computers. Until we have a base and a unit identified, we'll not be able to provide an accurate cost estimate for the commercial ISP. But if you would like more information on the variable factors, we can discuss this more in depth during the Q&A. So testing is important, but how do we know if we're hitting the mark? My team has narrowed down our scope to feasibility, reliability, and desirability. Starting at the top, feasibility can be measured with network and machine metrics. We also take a look at any additional software licenses that may be required. Moving on, reliability has two areas of concern: vulnerabilities and threats. Vulnerabilities can be found using standard network scanning tools. However, these The threats can be identified through red teaming via penetration testing. And finally, desirability will be measured using the Department of the Air Force Chief Experience Officer's digital experience monitoring tool. So what do we do with this data? Well, after we finish the small scale test, we can then decide how to create connectivity to those services that we identified and how to tackle the user experience issues that we encountered. We can then scale this up to test it at a group or wing level while pushing to find solutions to bridge the gap to those siloed .mil applications and services. So to wrap this all up, I'll leave you with one final thought. Why don't we break the chains of our current infrastructure and develop a sleek, fast, and secure solution that's there when you need it, no matter where you are.
Awesome. Thanks, Team 6. Mongo, great reminder about the Commander's Trophy and way to sell out Molly and throw her under the bus in front of Dr. DeGraff. And also, like Celeste, I like the Baymax Big Hero 6 reference there too. And also, you've resuscitated the hashtag #FixOurComputers. That's trending last I checked. We're going to turn it over to the judges for the 7 minutes of questions first. So Dr. Theodotou, I saw that you liked the Zero Trust cybersecurity, but I will also let you present the first question to Team 6.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mo, and thank you, Team 6. Again, well done on articulating your challenge and trying to focus on key elements of the National Defense Strategy and how do we bring those into what the airmen need to be training on and testing on today. And also zeroing in on the fact that our basic technology needs to work for us. Technology is a conduit to everything else that we're doing. So how can we harness that? You articulated your challenge and your ask very clearly in your final slides. My question to you is, what happens if you don't get a base and you don't get a squadron? How are you going to navigate that hurdle and find a different way to test and implement your idea?
Thank you, Dr. T. That's a great question. And honestly, so there's units that are using commercial internet right now. Speaking with Colt Whittle, the Chief Experience Officer at the Department of the Air Force, he's told us there are thousands of units that have submitted waivers to use commercial internet on base right now. So we could possibly identify some of those units that are using that and try to compare and contrast those results. Extract some data from them, compare and contrast how those results versus if they're using the AFNet computers.
So in other words, you're going to find a way. The demand is higher, and so you're not anticipating this being a problem.
Absolutely.
Did I get that correctly? Okay, excellent.
Correct.
Thank you. Over to you, Mo.
Thank you, ma'am. And then, Sean, you were talking about, has anybody talked to anybody at SAF-CN? Is that something you want to talk to with the group and ask that question?
Well, he kind of addressed it. Colt Whittle is at SAF-CN, among others. A follow-up question then is, how did you guys determine that internet was the culprit versus the software we use more than specifically like the hardware? That you guys are focused on the internet more than the hardware itself, and also not the software. And then the second part of that question is, some of the experiments that have already been done at hackathon showed that the processor wasn't the issue. It wasn't the memory. It was actually solid state drives versus hard drives. Physical hard drives showed the biggest jump in performance. So how do you account for that when you're focused on one part of this IT issue?
Awesome questions, and I appreciate it. So internet versus hardware. The way we're looking at this is not only is it the hardware that's the issue, we're looking at the cybersecurity overhead of things like Tanium and McAfee and whatever else we have, and our limited network that we have on base right now. So versus if I increase the RAM on my computer, yes, I can make my computer potentially faster, get a beefier CPU. Yeah, I can make my computer faster, but it doesn't necessarily fix all those tools that we have. If the Air Force systems were all on the cloud, and when I need to connect to the Air Force systems, I go do my Air Force things via the cloud, then I'm using commercial internet. Otherwise, that's kind of where we're moving towards with this. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
And then also, Hans, from the chat, from Team 2, you asked a question. Does that kind of address your question you had too on things that required AFNet? Does that answer that question as well?
It kind of partially. So I just have a question between if you were to go to this in order to avoid a lot of those processor intensive things that need to go on the AFNet or that are currently installed on the AFNet, then what is the alternative to maintaining the AFNet, but then figuring out which of those processes we can begin to tone down, and what level of security is everybody willing to work on? Over.
So the scope for this project right now, we're looking more on the NIPR unclassified side. So and we haven't really been able to look real deep to see what all processes are really crushing our services at the moment. So that's something we'll have to deep dive a little bit further into. But yeah, like we said, the Tanium and the other background processes for the sake of cybersecurity, like I said, McAfee, those are the services that we see really affecting our systems. Within the Combat Com, we try to use those our own network monitoring tools on premise as opposed to across the network. So the idea is if you can enforce application layer security instead of security on each and every client, and have to put a massive fence around an entire network, we're going to again enforce those zero trust ideas and then reduce our network overhead as a whole.
And also, I'm seeing some chatter. Miss Martinelli, do you want to discuss some of the questions, or are you getting your answers in the chat?
For the most part, I just, it was kind of, it harkens back to a lot of discussions about authorization to operate and what kind of security we need for different software platforms and things. The more you stack in there, the slower your computers are going to work. So I won't pretend to be an expert on Kessel Run, but I know that they've looked at that, as well as some of the other partners in the commercial space like Second Front and their Project Game Warden. So I'm just wondering if any of that was in alignment or relevant to your problem set or solution development.
Yeah, so to my understanding, I know Kessel Run was really focused more on the advanced battle management system. That was my understanding. So we didn't really look into that area. I think it was more of a software factory as opposed to bringing zero trust on board. I'm not exactly sure which portion of that you were referring to.
Fair. I just saw in the chat, sorry, I just saw in the chat that one vaunted workaround is bringing a personal laptop and a hotspot. So yeah, still a problem and still relevant today.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys. And then, Molly brought up a great point too, and we all had to kind of quarantine in place. That opens some new opportunities and doors too. So these are great conversations, but I want to get the judges. We need to kick them out here pretty soon. So thank you for all the excellent pitches and great job to all the teams. Really, that was just a lot of work. I know you guys have put into that, so we appreciate that. And really appreciate the connections and the conversations that are happening in the chats. And these teams have agreed to make themselves available for more abuse, comments, questions, and smart remarks while the judges deliberate, so that can keep going on. And then we will have breakout rooms open after the showcase. Now, speaking of breakout rooms, first we are going to send our distinguished judges to the password-protected, invite-only, you must be this tall to ride this ride, judges breakout room while they deliberate on the awards. Judges, you should now see a button at the bottom of your screen to join the breakout rooms, and we will kick them out, and the conversations can keep on going. While the judges deliberate, we have the distinct pleasure of welcoming Serge DaDeppo, who is the founder and director of NATO's Innovation Hub in Norfolk, Virginia. And he is joined by Ethan Eagle, who is a PhD in aerospace engineering, but more dear to us. As you already heard, he is the head coach of multiple Project Mercury cohorts and workshops. And we are going to go all FDR style on you. We're going to let these two have a fireside chat. And if you have any questions or comments or smart remarks while they're talking, just throw them in that Zoom chat. So Ethan and Serge, I will throw it over to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mo. So Serge, it's nice to see you, Project Mercury alumni, as well as all of those other accolades. I'm waiting a moment to see if you get also co-spotlighted with me so that everybody can see you. But we have a couple of questions, and then just like Mo said, we'll try and open things up to the whole room. But just I wanted to give you, Serge, an opportunity to let us all know a little bit more. What is the NATO Innovation Hub? And can you tell us about your personal involvement in the operations and the Innovation Hub operation?
Yes, thank you for having me, everyone. It's a pleasure to be addressing the rising cohorts. So I am with the NATO Innovation Hub, and the NATO Innovation Hub actually was the first open innovation entity in defense ever. We started 10 years ago. And its purpose at the beginnings was really to solve issues that were around us, and we are part of NATO's Transformation Command in Norfolk, Virginia. But since applying open innovation and agile development to solving problems was working very well, our commands decided that we had to export that model to everywhere NATO and the nations. And so we, starting in 2017, we started to sell our model everywhere. And at this stage, we are now continuing to developing solutions on a daily basis for whoever needs that in NATO, and we have grown. We have 60 people here, and we have our own software development capability, for example. So we develop a lot of things, not limited to software, and it's basically to demonstrate how open innovation and agile solves the problem, so that others do it. And my specific role now, after getting this on track, is really to expand the network and to have more innovation entities everywhere in NATO and the nations. We helped create innovation entities everywhere. Ansin is one of them when they were called MD5. Our Force is also one of them, and many more. Overseas, we have now 18 innovation entities in our network, and we are committed to collaborate and to spread innovation everywhere. Now, our best member is definitely from the US Air Force, the largest. It's the place where innovation has been really deployed to the extreme, and that's really a pleasure to be with you. And it's because of this, I guess, that I became Project Mercury alumni, because there was a lot to get from there. And now we expand that over the NATO nations and even beyond the NATO nations. We really believe that innovation, the way we do it and the way you also do it in Mercury and the Air Force, is what will make a change in the future. Get us back on the map, all right? Some say keeping the edge. I think in innovation, we are realistic. Is get us back on the map.
Okay. Great, Serge. So yeah, interested, you have Air Force participation or you've been involved, but for any of our new minted alumni graduates here, how might they get interested or find out opportunities? What kind of cross-pollination or networking is available for their engagement and to continue the process of innovation in security and defense?
So the big question I always ask to Americans when they start collaborating with us is, what do you think NATO can bring to you? Because usually we have much less resources, right? And luckily they have an answer, because they can come and knock at our doors because they have an idea of what we can provide. It's usually the internationality, the opening up to other networks, to other nations, to other culture, so that it brings probably not more quantity, but some different quality or nature. And then definitely, as I was mentioning, collaborating with the US Air Force is something that happens on a daily basis. We have a ton of things going on, also around Mercury, but so many other things. So we have started to create an innovation cell in NATO Air Command in Ramstein. And basically that's almost a branch of the US Air Force. So this is what's happening now. At the individual level, the Innovation Hub commits to help anyone. So anyone who is listening to us could come and say, hey, I have a problem, Innovation Hub, can you help me solve it? And definitely it's a pleasure and a duty for us to do that. We will have a look at it. It's very likely that in the case of someone from the US Air Force, you say, okay, that's nice to come to us, but actually you have closer to you someone in the US Air Force who has everything that we have and will help you better because they're closer. And by default, we would orient the people towards the local innovation entity. But it might be that because of the specificity of what it is, it needs to be international, and I will do it. So to all of you, you can knock at my door and our door, email us and say, hey, can you help me solve that issue? I think you really qualify for that. And here, definitely we have a prioritization process because we got so many, but what's coming from anyone in the Air Force does qualify, actually, and anyone in DoD. That's what we offer to the individuals. And now to the organization is we help them develop their innovation mindset, structure, and culture wherever they are. And that's happening a lot in a tactical level or strategic level organizations. And I just ended a meeting with Canadians coming here. John started saying we need to open an innovation entity. We don't even know what it means. Can you help? And so we told the whole story, and that there is a network to help them. That's what's happening here.
Yeah. Serge, awesome. I definitely have been to the website. There's some really awesome, I think, recruiting materials. There's the pretty fancy like graphic novel imagining kind of the future space and why people should be interested in the sort of NATO Innovation Hub challenges. But I'm particularly interested, before the judges come back and we run out of time. You're an alumnus of this program. We're about to graduate some new alumni. Do you have any kind of words of wisdom, or how do you transition kind of back to your normal desk job? You run an innovation hub that maybe not where the rest of these folks are going to be going back to, but just thoughts about as you've marinated on the Mercury process and like the core things that you've been able to translate after you graduated.
Yeah, I think if you are not working in an innovation entity and you go back with the new acquired knowledge, really motivated, is the first the challenge hits you immediately. How do I apply this? Will I be shot at if I come with an idea that actually is totally along the line of what I've learned, but actually would be totally strange to the people I interact with on a daily basis? And what I recommend is go for it. I mean, innovation is not happening because it's easy. It's happening because it's hard. You face resistance, and an innovator is someone who takes risks and faces the resistance. Even in the full-fledged innovation entities like ours, we are fighting resistance on a daily basis from not from inside, but next to us. Red taping is everywhere, and if you are alone, wherever you are with an innovative idea in mind, go for it. Don't wait for someone else to make it happen for you. It needs to come from you, and you have excellent basis provided by the Mercury training, which is actually addressing that aspect of how you pitch your idea, how you face the resistance. It will happen. It has to happen. If it's not happening, it's not innovation.
Yeah, Serge, couldn't definitely, the emotional processing of bringing an innovative idea, especially one that challenges the identity of the group, right? Like, let's put down our current tools and pick up this new tool. The courage that takes is something that hopefully you've gotten a chance to practice once or twice or thrice through this learning endeavor. I'm going to open up the chat until we get everybody back. Questions or comments from our Mercury coaches or from Mercury soon-to-be graduates about the NATO Innovation Hub or for Serge in particular?
Celeste
Celeste is
would like.
saying-
Yes, go ahead.
Yep, you got it. You got it, Ethan.
No, Celeste is saying, can you share your vision for Cohort 9 and what NATO is doing? How is it bringing participants into this process, and how do you see that as a tool for strengthening the effectiveness of NATO innovation?
Yeah, innovation training. So as I was saying, we've been around the block in innovation for 10 years, and when it comes to training, we have been trying to try everything. So we would send our people to different training every year, hoping that all together we'll have kind of an exhaustive understanding of the different ways to train innovation, different principle processes. But at this stage, we really wanted to recommend what training NATO people have to take, and it's Mercury. All right, so it's the best, the most adapted to the military environment that we have seen. And with Cohort 9, we will be training 6 people from the NATO Innovation Hub, who I hope will become coaches for the cohort following up, maybe 11, I don't know exactly, but we really want to expand that over the nations. And so, as I was saying, we have 18 innovation entities. Of course, it counts AFWorks, so we don't need that. But for the ones in Europe, for example, we would hope that they would routinely send their innovation experts in Mercury, so that it becomes unifying and the mindset across the ocean and across the border for the innovation people in NATO.
Mongo, you want to come on, Mike, and ask your question?
Sure. Thanks for your perspectives. I was wondering if the NATO Innovation Cell is working in specific programs for Ukraine, and particularly in the realm of air defense and counter UAS, counter cruise missile.
All right, so we are topic agnostic. We can work on anything, all right? And so the topic that you mentioned, we touch them definitely. Now, not with Ukraine, because the problem that we have faced with Ukraine is NATO took more than 1 month to figure out how to respond to the crisis. I don't know if you remember the news, but we were there. Ukrainians contacted us and said, we need this and that. We did not go, we didn't get the green light because NATO didn't know what to do. And so we have lost that train basically in supporting directly the Ukrainian operation. Now we still do it indirectly, but you see that politically speaking is still very touchy. Just 1 week ago, NATO Secretary General is saying we are helping, individual nations are helping, NATO officially is not doing anything. So we're kind of a bit kept behind, and we are really sad because there is a lot of things that we could do, and they definitely ask for. We helped ISAF a lot by that. So we have experience in helping an operation, and definitely it works very, very well, no doubt.
How about Paul Ellis? I know you're overseas, so maybe a little bit of an international flavor.
Yeah, Serge, I was just curious, you're with NATO Innovations and Allied Air Command located at Ramstein Air Base, is there a link between a cell there and any of the Air Force Spark cells located within the European Union to tackle some of the NATO products, but with in coordination and utilizing both ecosystems? Over.
So Aircom people told me that they are in close collaboration with the Spark cell there in Ramstein. This is what I know at this stage. We have been working with our Aircom for a good 3 years in developing their own solution with our software development capability. And it's only actually 2 weeks ago that they came up and say, okay, we want our own innovation thing here. We don't need to depend on you. And that is wonderful. This is what we want. And they told me, yeah, we've been also developing with the Spark cell here, but we need to scale up our structure to do better collaboration. So this is what I know at this stage, but Aircom is definitely the easiest gate towards the US Air Force there and everywhere.
Serge, hardest hitting question came through direct message. Who do you like in the FIFA World Cup?
Man, no, my favorite teams, no one stands anymore. You know, I'm a Belgian, half Spanish, and half Italian. And okay, now let the best win.
All right. More seriously, I think there's a question from somebody. It was probably Paul's question as well, but you mentioned people can just email you, right? Is folks on this chat, are you I think you just dropped your email there. So I would say if you want to connect with Serge and figure out more how to link some things up, hopefully you take the ball and run with it. That was a poor football metaphor. But Serge, can you tell us about maybe a recent success, or like what's the flavor of things that are coming out of the work that you've been doing recently?
So we really have now a split of our products that are delivered, half of them being heavy software oriented, just because we have the capability, and second, there is that kind of need in the NATO command structure, which is working at operational higher level, not a tactical level. So it's very, very software. And so we have been developing a slew of IT applications to solve daily problems, because NATO is really backwards when it comes to IT. So people are struggling with really basic stuff. And so we are developing for them tools that do work. Many of them are inspired by the Air Force, actually, because we also have acquired Crayon coming from Castle Run, and we develop in that environment also. So we have imported a few Castle Run stuff for NATO, and we have been developing tools to direct JTAC, to organize logistic support, a lot about information sharing, intelligence analysis. We start doing AI slowly, because that's another breed of software thing, and that's really promising. On more the conceptual side, we work a lot in cognitive superiority. So we are testing new tools to support operational planning and decision making, also based on AI, information analysis, but also we're training on critical thinking, to boost the capability of every individual in making objective decisions. So these are basically the things that we have been focusing on in 2022. For 23, we are developing a lot of simulation and war games. We are trying to get the first NATO multi-domain operation simulation environment that would combine the physical domains, cyber environment, and cognitive environment. And I think it's not there anywhere else yet.
All
so
right.
on my menu.
Great. Those are great problems to have. Got 99 problems, and Serge has got all of them. So we're waiting a couple more minutes. The judges are stuck in some fierce deliberation, I'm sure. I wanted to see if there are any other comments, questions from folks in the chat, or Mo. Do you have any thoughts for us on the state of FIFA and where we might be going?
Well, Whip, you have to type in spoiler alert if you're going to give the results of the game. So if you're interested in the outcome of the first game, don't read the chat.
Serge, actually, I have a question for you that's related to one of the team's pitches here, which was sort of what happens after the end of Mercury. And I'm curious to know, we have Nadia on. I know she was one of your cohort members, but like how the process of trying to solve a problem, does it forge a bond? Are you still in contact with any of your Mercury team members, or was it, that was nice and now we've atomized and we're continuing on our own journeys? What's your experience been?
Yeah, that's interesting that Nadia is there, because we are working on developing wargaming for the Air Force ROTC, and she will be probably the first person to import that So we have developed we had already in the past our own simulation capability here, but now we're exporting it to and the ROTC, it will go through Nadia.
Yeah, so leveraging those relationships, we certainly have seen, right, how trust can accelerate decision making, right? If I've worked with this person before, if I know their quality, I'm more likely to say, yeah, that's a good place to go run the experiment. Looking forward to that.
And the end, innovation, it's about the people, and it's not about knowing the technique. It's about knowing who can help you and who to talk to, and the critical. And this is why we are getting the NATO people in Mercury for the cohesion of the community. They know each other, they work together on problems and on projects, and then they will go for the real life problem to solve.
All right, fantastic. I see Jim is back, and that it leads me to believe that our judges are making their way back from their deliberations. Serge, it's been a pleasure to chat with you. We're really looking forward to Cohort 9 and the involvement of the NATO Innovation Hub, and just really awesome to hear all the work that you've been doing. And back over to our judges.
Thank you. Good luck, everyone.
Hey, Serge. Hi.
It's like the famous, the paparazzi there. That was fantastic. Thank you. Thanks for Ethan for hosting the Fireside Chat with Serge. And it's great to be able to get, again, like you said, that perspective from the alumni as well as people who are in it, kind of wondering what's next. So that's great. All right, judges, it looks like you guys are back. And now we know deliberations must have been difficult. Everyone is on the edge of their seats, and we're excited to hear who won which awards. That's a lot of words. Okay. So, of course, we're going to do the People's Choice Award base that was on our poll, and then we'll do the Prismatic Awards, and then finally the top prize, which is the Innovation Excellence Award. So, audience, if you want to go ahead and get ready to use your reaction buttons to show the support as in winners are announced, like if we can all try clicking the clapping emoji button for practice, we'll give that a shot. No one is clicking their... There we go. Thank you. All right. First up is what we want to call the Hollywood Award, or as we've referred to it, the People's Choice Award. This award recognizes the team that's worked on solving a real problem with a real solution, as well as having that wow factor. And the winner is the Five-Eyed Ravens. That's based on the poll, so congratulations. Yes, thank you. Teacher Mary, yes, perfect. Awesome. Nice job, you guys. And Serge says, feel free to hit me. I'm assuming he means like an email or something. So like no violence here, okay? All right. Yes, and nice job, Deepfake Heather. Okay. All right, now we're going to move on to the Prismatic Awards. There are 4 Prismatic Awards going to the team who most embodies the spirit of each category in the innovation genome or competing values framework. Now, each judge was assigned a color by a not-so-random selection process, and General Carney will present the SAGE Award, which represents the Innovation Genome Yellow Quadrant. This award goes to the team that best exemplified collaboration, values, and a focus on doing things that last. General Carney, I sagely hand the screen over to you.
Yeah, thank you. What a good competition, and thanks for letting me be a part of this today. Great to see so many great Americans caring so much about our Air Force, wanting to improve it across the board, so thank you. The deliberations are tough, but the SAGE Yellow Collaboration Award goes out to the Ember team. Certainly a team that clearly worked hard on collaboration. So congrats to them.
Awesome. Thank you. And hashtag Ember Endeavor is now going to be trending. So congrats to the Ember team. Next up, Miss Trish Martinelli will present my personal favorite and therefore obviously the best award, the Artiste Award, representing the Innovation Genome Green Quadrant. Now, this award goes to the team that best exemplified creation, novelty, and a focus on doing new and often, and hopefully, disruptive things. So, Miss Martinelli, with great panache, flourish, and some disruption, I turn the microphone over to you.
I just want to say that before we get started, I have lots of green in mine, if you can see this as I disappear it. So I have lots of green in my genome. So this strikes me close to the heart. Although in terms of artwork, I'm not the person that you want to turn to for anything beyond a stick figure. So this particular team really had a lot to say about something that is a today problem, as well as a very deep and projected tomorrow problem, a problem that combines both a technology aspect, an intellectual aspect, as well as an interpersonal aspect. And that team is the Five-Eyed Raven. Congratulations for the Artist Award.
Nice. Congrats, guys. That's fantastic. Thank you, Ms. Martinelli. Next, Major General Holt will present the Engineer Award, which represents the Innovation Genome Red Quadrant. And this award goes to the team that exemplified control, process systems, and a focus on doing things right every time. General Holt, I shall accurately and precisely send the controls to you, sir.
Okay, thanks. So I'll tell you, our deliberations were kind of challenging there, but I think we got to the right answer on the control team. So I want to say congratulations to Team 6, and Mojo and Tom, or Mongo, sorry, and Tom did a great job with the briefing. So Team 6, congratulations on the Red Award.
Thank you, sir. Congratulations. And then finally, Dr. Marina Theodotou will present the Athlete Award, which represents Innovation Genome Blue Quadrant. And this award goes to the team that excelled in competition, speed, and had a focus on doing things now. Dr. Theodotou, I know you have laced up your shoes, you've stretched, you've hydrated, and you're ready to accept the baton to present the Athlete Award. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Mo. And actually, absolutely, the deliberations were tough, but it was very clear that Team Milano actually won the Blue Award for the athletes. They presented their case and pitched it well and thought broadly, and really helped us think why training is so foundational and critical to our airmen. So congratulations, Team Milano. Thank you for all your great work. And with that, I'd like to thank all the teams for your amazing work that you've done in the last several weeks. You've inspired us, and you've given us a lot of great insights on where you are in terms of your thinking, and also how much you've covered, how much ground you've covered in becoming innovators within the Project Mercury program. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Theodotou. All right, Major General Holt, we're going to turn it back to you to announce the Innovation Excellence Award. Now, for everyone who's watching, feel free to generate a drum roll on your desk. And I'm looking for something that will annoy your cubicle mates and get your dogs barking. Just don't wake any babies. General Holt, the drum rolls have begun, so over to you, sir.
Okay, again, congratulations to all the teams that were involved. And I do want to say, I said our deliberations were challenging. All the teams in competition got some kind of vote, and we had to do multiple revotes to get to the final answer. But the overall winner is Team 2, the Ember team. So congratulations.
Fantastic. Congratulations. That's awesome. Way to go. Yes, I love all the excitement that's going on in the chat, and it's just fantastic. It's multi-sensory. It's great. Judges, thank you so much for your time and your commitment, and I'm glad you had a difficult time in there and needed the extra time. But your commitment to these innovative ideas by all the Project Mercury Cohort 8 teams is just really fantastic, and it's valuable, and I think that a lot of connections were made. So congratulations to the winners. And look, I know we hear this all the time, but I actually mean this. Today, everyone is a winner because today is graduation day. The individuals on these slides have developed the culture, competency, and communities needed to help their units embrace a more innovative mindset. Individuals who complete all of the course requirements, as Dr. DeGraff mentioned earlier, will be awarded a Certified Professional Innovator Certificate from the University of Michigan's Ross School of Business and School of Engineering. So congratulations to all of our accomplished innovators. You are now part of the Project Mercury Alumni Network. And together you take on the responsibility of being the change agents our units and the Department of Air Force needs. Dr. DeGraff, I'm going to hand it over to you for the coin presentation.
Yes, I'm going to have my friend here help me give you the coin, my nutcracker friend. You know, the hot air used to blow from Columbus and now it's blowing from Ann Arbor. Just the change of the winds. I want you to notice this very cool coin. And I want to warn you, because people like me who are not in the Air Force, whenever you get a coin, there's a lot of rules about wearing your hat and who has to buy drinks and, you know, can you do the chicken dance or whatever. So I don't know any of the rules, but I'm going to give you this very neat coin. So the coin is now committed to you, right? So that you will get a coin, you will get a patch to wear wherever you're supposed to wear it, and you will get a certificate which will be listed at the University of Michigan that you have completed this course. I thought these were all well done. Congratulations to all of you, and I mean this sincerely. It was very hard to look at all these and to sort of pick a winner out of this. So congratulations to all and keep moving forward.
Thanks, Jeff. That was awesome. Yeah, and take note of that. Since Dr. DeGraff doesn't know the rules of the coin, that means you can play loosely with the rules, which means that we can get Dr. DeGraff to buy more drinks. That's all we want to take from that. Yes, he knows. All right. Okay, next we want to recognize a very special group of people who are passionate about innovation and personal growth, our coaches. Now, it takes a lot of ingenuity and dedication to accept the responsibility and the volunteer paycheck to coach and invest in Project Mercury. So this rockstar lineup of coaches squeeze extra hours out of their already full schedules, and they devote time to innovation and coaching. So in the blue font, you'll see our new coaches, Kathy Conyers, Craig Bine, Paul Ellis, Joseph Hall, Moose, aka John Damaris. And then thank you also to our multi-cohort returning coaches, Aaron Cross, Kristen Torma, Brent Harlan, Doug Fullingham, John Kerrigan, Julie Pistol Jansen, Nadia Fisher, and Trevor Loki Elbin. Your wisdom and your experience made this magic happen. Now, finally, in the spirit of the FIFA World Cup, the coaches have selected a most valuable player for each team. Now, these team members showed extraordinary dedication and teamwork toward driving creativity and innovation on their teams. The MVPs are as follows. Team 1, Harry Buckner. Team 2, Jared Paragoy. Team 3, Laura Wilson. Team 4, Henry Jakowski. Team 5, Heather Pettis. Team 6, Edgar Higham. Oh, that's all 6. I should have changed my inflection. You guys, congratulations to all these MVPs for all the work you do. You're unsung heroes, and we appreciate that, and your coaches appreciate that, obviously. So congratulations to all the MVPs. Now, at this time, I want to bring back and present our host, Major General Holt, for his closing comments. And, sir, I want to say thank you so much for your involvement and being actively involved today. So it's been really helpful. So over to you, sir.
Okay, thanks, Mo. I hate to close this out, actually. I think there's a lot of good discussion and good work that we could do integrating together among all of these teams. They were all fantastic. Thanks to you, Mo, for helping host and lead us and guide us through this today. I do want to say thanks to all the coaches, especially Dr. Ethan Eagle. One, I just love that name. I think it's a really cool name. And then 2, for all the work he's done as the head coach. And thanks to our judges today. Thanks to Dr. DeGraff for continued support of this program. And I would like to echo something Dr. DeGraff said. It's you know, see one, do one, teach one. That's how you build real mastery. So I would encourage those who've now graduated to come back as coaches as you can in the future. I think it'll help build a better force for us. And as excited as I was today to hear the pitches, I'm really excited to see what comes from these teams and all of these graduates in the future, and what innovations come out of you now as your certified professional innovators, which I think is really awesome for you. And I think it's going to help the Air Force and the Space Force deter and win in the future. So I do want to wish everyone a happy holidays and best wishes in the future. I hate to hang this up because I just think there's so much energy here that we could share across the teams. And so I encourage you to continue to do so, and hope everyone enjoys the next few weeks as we move into the holidays and come back as sort of certified innovators ready to move out in January. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, sir. And that concludes our showcase. So thank you again to our esteemed hosts, to our judges, our coaches, to the students, and to everyone else watching who is a supporter of them. We're going to open up 6 breakout rooms, 1 for each of the 6 teams, and we're going to leave them open for 30 minutes for informal Q&A. There will be cookies and punch served there if that's what you have in your kitchen. If not, sorry, go to another breakout room. Thank you again. Keep the conversations going and the connections going, and keep on innovating, and head on over to the breakout rooms.